All right, you're all set.
Thank you much. Good evening. Today is Thursday, May 25th, 2023, and my name is Fred Chase. I'll call to order this meeting of the Rules and Procedures Committee of the Bridgewater Town Council. I note the presence of a quorum to conduct business here tonight. Together with me, we have Mark Lindy, Councilor at Large. And we're anticipating the arrival of Susie Robinson, an additional counselor, momentarily, but perhaps she's been detained. We're just going to commence our meeting since we do have a quorum present. Joining us as a guest is our Community and Economic Development Director, Robert Ruley. And I'll begin to kick things off. Firstly, I'll read the COVID disclosure statement. Pursuant to Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2020, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, and the March 31, 2025 extension granted by Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance is permitted. Citizens who wish to may tune into the meeting via Zoom. So with that out of the way, our agenda, having initiated the call to order, firstly does call for the approval of minutes from our last meeting. That was the meeting of May 3rd, 2023. And I would welcome a motion for approval.
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2023.
That's great. I thank you. And I will second that. And I believe, Josh, we do need to resort to a roll call vote. Is that the case? Okay, so I'll call the roll then. And Mark Lindy, what is your vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes as well. So the minutes have been approved. And we do have a public comment period, and the time I notice now is 7:03 p.m. So I will open the public comment period and welcome input from either our guest, Mr. Ruley, or any member of the public who may be in attendance.
I have nothing, Mr. Chase.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate that. I certainly appreciate your being here. Just on that point, and I noticed, by the way, hello, Susie. I see that you've joined the meeting. Thank you. And very good. And I was just going to note that with the indulgence of the committee members, I would urge that Mr. Ruley be provided further opportunities for input through the course of this meeting beyond the public comment period, to the extent that he might feel it advantageous to the work of the committee. So unless there's any objection to that, we can proceed on that basis.
No objections.
Very good. I thank you. All right. Our agenda calls for new business, firstly, and old business. We actually have only two items for consideration, both of which are new business for the committee. And the first is with respect to order FY 23-052, municipal electric aggregation. This was presented before the full council on for first reading on April 4th, having been introduced by Councilor Lindy, who's present here today, Councilor Gallagher, and myself. And I can give you just the kind of very, very brief intro. The council members had received numerous inquiries in recent months concerning municipal energy aggregation, and citizens have offered support for adoption of this program during recent council sessions. If there's no objection, I'd be happy to read the fairly brief order in its entirety for the benefit of the public and our future broadcast of this meeting.
Sure.
Thank you. Whereas municipal electric aggregation is the process by which a town or city purchases electricity in bulk from a competitive supplier on behalf of the residents and businesses within the community. And whereas municipal electric aggregation is possible in Massachusetts due to passage of an act relative to restructuring the electric utility industry in the Commonwealth, regulating the provision of electricity and other services, and promoting consumer protections therein. And whereas the primary goals of a municipal energy aggregation is to provide residents and businesses with more competitive electricity choices, longer-term stable electricity rates, potentially lower electricity rates, more renewable electricity in the standard and optional products generated by New England renewable energy facilities, and increased consumer protection against unscrupulous retail marketers of electricity. And whereas the first step in creating a municipal electricity aggregation is to vote to initiate a municipal aggregation program, therefore be it ordered that the town council requests that the town manager prepare a feasibility study in consultation with the Department of Energy Resources, and if needed, in partnership with a consultant. So that is the full text of the measure. We can begin, if there's any discussion that either of the counselors would care to make at this point, you're certainly welcome to do so.
No, I think you covered it, and we talked about it in the general council meeting, and it's back here for referral for us to send it back out. So, I think we had a very comprehensive report from Carlton Hunt from the Energy Committee, and this will be something that's in the best interests of our residents to help them with the staggering cost of electricity.
Well, thank you. I concur with that. I found that there was a great deal of interest and support for this measure. And just as a side note, I happened to peruse the Department of Public Utilities site today, and I noted that there are 176 communities in the Commonwealth that have adopted such a program as of whatever date that that website may have been last updated. But that number is interesting because it constitutes just about exactly half of all of the cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're not exactly spearheading this effort, but nonetheless, we're smack in the middle. And it looks to be a very fortuitous time for us to be considering this. So I thank you. I would entertain a motion if anyone cares to move one forward.
Okay, so would it be in order to move to approve this or move to refer this back to the full council? Is that the proper motion?
That would be appropriate if you wish, yes.
Okay, yep. Well, I'll move that.
Okay, so we have a motion for it to be referred back with a positive recommendation to the full council.
Yep.
Is there a second?
I think I have more questions.
Okay. Well, why don't we do what we would need to do? I can second for discussion. So I have seconded, so we can now open up discussion, and please go right ahead.
I think that the presentation was definitely very interesting. I believe I would be interested in supporting a feasibility study. I think it would also be helpful to understand how much that may cost. I'd rather not put it forward with, a positive recommendation other than let's just get the feasibility study done and then make some kind of recommendation in terms of whether or not we think it's a positive or not beneficial for the town to adopt. It might be splitting hairs, but I do want to just consider the tone of how we consider this. I'm all for energy saving for sure. But it feels like it might be helpful to have, a little bit more information and feasibility and, also understanding if half of the Commonwealth has been taking this on, what are those outcomes looking like? So that's all.
Let me just ask a question because I could have put that in my motion as well. My understanding is that I believe Carlton Hunt recommended that we engage some kind of a consultant possibly to do the feasibility study that Susie's talking about. Fred, do you recollect the conversation? The same-
I can't say that I recollect very specifically, but I know that there has been discussion about a consultant, and of course, that term does appear in the proposed order. What I think the real tenor of this, what it would do, is to at least put this on the town manager's desk and direct him to take the initial steps he thinks to consider this for the town. In other words, if he can arrive at a conclusion that, based on his own inquiry, that, we can comply with the requirements and it's appropriate to bring forward and report to the council with a recommendation for approval, which still would have to happen, that he can do so. Or if he chooses to actually consult with, whether it's someone in the industry or, a consulting firm or whatever it might be, we're giving him the option to do that. But I think that a first step here is to enable the feasibility study, which is really all that this order is doing. And he would need to come back to the council, with an actual proposal, because we would have to draft an ordinance based on that. So this is really the first step in beginning serious, let's say, consideration of it.
Mhm.
You are correct. I know that Dr. Hunt did express support, and as well, you may remember that a citizen did come forward whose name escapes me now, but I'm sure he was present at a couple of meetings to discuss this. He had been a former selectman in another Massachusetts town,
Correct. I don't
and
remember.
you
Yeah.
recall he did express, based on that experience of his own, strong support for such a program. So beyond that, I don't know that we really have any information, anything to say. It's really just a question of putting forth the order directing the town manager to start the study.
Mhm.
Well,
Sounds good.
okay, well, we have a motion and a second, I believe. If we don't, I'll second the motion. So I would ask if we could have a vote to consider referring this measure to the council with a recommendation for approval. Josh, would you like to do the honors?
Sure. Fred,
Yep, yes.
Mark?
Mhm.
Yes,
Susie,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good. I think that's going to be very well received by the council and the citizens. So something is off and running at least. So the second matter that we have on our agenda this evening is ordinance FY 23. I'm sorry, ordinance, yes, FY 23-012, general ordinance section D-5, flow neutral regulation, sewer regulations. And this had been brought forward by Councilor Perry. And I do have some background information that I can point out to you. And I've actually just a short while ago, some hour or two ago, sent to each of you, Mark and Susie,
Yep.
you basically, in case you want to refer to it, you can actually read along with me on this background information.
Mr.
begins-
Chase, if you like, I can summarize it.
Well, that's fine. Actually, I would appreciate that, Bob, if you would like to dive in.
Sure. So as part of as council members know, there are improvements that are ongoing at the wastewater treatment plant. One of the requirements to not pay interest on the money that is being borrowed is to adopt this flow neutral ordinance. And this refers back to a comprehensive wastewater management plan that was dated May 2020. However, most of the data that went into that plan was from 2015, 2016. So this is kind of a two-part process. We don't want to have to pay interest on the money borrowed. In order to not pay interest on the money borrowed, we need to adopt this ordinance. Now, I know that we've had lots of discussion about downtown development and other things happening. There is a process for us to amend our comprehensive wastewater management plan. That will more than likely happen. The allocations for flow in that 2015 adopted to 2020. There's going to be some changes to that, but this is primarily just so that we can get the documentation to the state and that the debt can go out to the market and we don't pay interest on the $20 million plus that we're borrowing.
I thank you. That's very helpful to know. So I know that Mr. Dutton, when he introduced it in the council, he primarily, he referred to the two parts of it that are most important. The fact that really this kind of, the kind of compliance that the town is going to be required to meet with respect to wastewater treatment, wastewater management, is going to necessitate the provisions of this proposed ordinance. And most importantly, as Mr. Rulli has pointed out, the financing of that need is most significant. And during our meeting, I know that Mr. Dutton had pointed out that by enabling or by adopting this ordinance, this would be an important first step in the town's ability to secure funding through the Commonwealth in the form of the state revolving fund. The words escaped me. And so you may remember early in the week, I had sent to each of you, Mark and Susie, a link to a webinar just about the state revolving fund, because I thought it was very useful. It was quite lengthy. It was about an hour-long webinar and maybe more information than you'd ever want to know, but it did discuss a lot of the relevant provisions and benefits of the state revolving fund for purposes of this kind of infrastructure financing. So let me ask if I think what we should do is at least consider, I would entertain a motion for approval to be returned to the council with a positive recommendation if anyone chooses to do so.
Yes, motion to move to council for approval.
Second,
Thank you. A motion and a second. And Josh, once again, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors.
Sure. Fred,
Yes.
Mark,
yes,
Susie,
Yes.
thank you. The motion is approved.
Thank you so much.
Great.
I think, once again, I think that's a very positive step, and I think it's something that is certainly going to take time to implement, but it's from the financing side of things, it's going to be extraordinarily helpful for the town and town residents. So I thank you for the consideration. Bob, I would welcome any comments, questions you have.
The positive vote was what I was looking for. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to be able to deliver that.
Way to arm wrestle us, huh?
yeah,
Well, I'm a little exhausted at the moment, but I'll recover.
You heard we were a tough group. Well,
I mean, I'll just add that, when I was in Warren, I was involved with the upgrades to our wastewater treatment plant. The state revolving loan funds and the interest forgiveness are really advantageous to communities in terms of what it saves taxpayers. So I think, I appreciate the fact that you all understand that and that the council is supportive of this moving forward. So thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for that. And we appreciate all the work that you do behind the scenes. So, well, with
Yeah.
that, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off. Was that Susie?
Oh, no, I was just saying, yes, in agreement with you.
Thank you. We have no further business before us this evening. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Oh,
Very
yep.
good. And I'll conduct the roll. Mark, what is your vote?
Yes.
And Susie?
Yes.
Very good. And I vote yes as well. And we stand adjourned. Have a great
All right.
evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Everyone.
Thanks,
you,
you too.
everyone.